So I got these supports here, braces, lined up pretty well. I'm just going to bump that gently into place. And it is in place, see? And now I'll just take that screw that I put over here and put it right onto this position here. And try not to drop it on the floor. Yep. And as I tighten the screw up, it tightens the bell into the mechanism, into the whole valve section. I can even adjust it on this side here so it can move a little bit more. You want to see here what's going on. Yep, that's it. So there we are. And now, as I promised, oh, this has to go back. It sounds different when it's held here. So the bell falls down into this little bit of a stirrup here, and then the posts go into little eye supports here, and it's as if it was soldered together, and it's very stable and whatever. Now I've got the double triggers here. This is important. I also had these made for the Yamaha instruments that I had made for the Bamberg Symphony Orchestra. I spoke about that in the last YouTube. And I don't know if they're still playing the instruments. I haven't seen. I gave mine up when I left the orchestra in 1983. The idea was to have 4 instruments that are the same in the orchestra, and they were bell changeable, very well made instruments. The Yamaha people, I think it was Toshi Kamiyama back then who was doing that work. Very, very fine gentleman. He's probably the head man now because they're very consistent in their personnel in these, especially in Japanese firms. Yamaha and Toshiba and what they all called. Anyway, usually named after a family head. They're very family oriented that way in Japan. Anyway, so we got this tuning slide here. I'm going to pull it out, and I had this lasered, so you get my little logo on there. And this is actually just a pipe that's shoved over and then soldered on a certain position. And then, careful, there's all kinds of stuff on the floor there, Mike. And then the lead pipe, the mouth pipe goes in like that. And this is an RG mouthpiece, rotary valve German back bore. RG, rotary valve, G for German. And this goes right in here. And you can also see that actually the idea is that the back bore and the lead pipe are so well enough made so that you don't really see any bumps or changes at all inside. There's no gap, and because then the back bore of the mouthpiece continues into the lead pipe, and then the lead pipe is really just the back bore of the mouth. So that is the whole mouthpiece when you think of it. It's not just the mouthpiece itself. And of course, it's fitting into the instrument right up here to where the pipe comes out of the lead pipe, out of the valve section. So here we are, and that's the idea here. So I'm going to play my first notes of the day. Now, a friend of mine blew in from Ireland, so he sort of drugged me out to the Red Lion, and we had to drink some beer and whiskey last night, which is not always my favorite thing, but I'm a pretty easygoing guy, so I haven't really. I'm drinking coffee out of the cup. Let my girlfriend steal the old one that I showed you in the very first YouTube that I did here. And she's still my girlfriend. I haven't seen her in quite a while, though, but I think she'll call this morning. I hope she doesn't do it during the YouTubes. And anyway, the idea is to play a little bit on this C trumpet. Now, warming up, I actually, one of the very first YouTubes that I did, I talked about warming up. I'm Fortunately, the people that we were with last night smoke incessantly. And I don't smoke, and so it gets in my lungs and they get congested, and I'm a little bit beleged, what the Germans call beleged. It means I've got a little phlegm in my upper bronchial tubes, but it's not going to keep me from doing these YouTubes today. So the position of the tuning slide is pretty critical in terms of how the instrument resonates in itself. So you have to tune the instrument to other instruments anyway. It can't just be for itself. So the movement of this tuning slide and these slides in coordination to play in tune is important. So the general length of the instrument plus the movement of the tuning slide plus the coordination of the intonation from the valves to play through different things. So I'm just going to play something simple and give you an idea of the sound. Oops, I'm not thinking before I'm playing. So the famous Pictures of an Exhibition by Modest Mussorgsky starts with a trumpet introduction. So it's a 5/4 and then a 6/4 bar. This is very typical Ukrainian-Russian tact, or what's the word in English? Beat or rhythm. 5/4, 6/4. You don't see it in much music, and it's important that you don't play it like like it's what the Germans call an Auftakt or anacrusis or pickup to a 4/4 bar. Bam, bam, bam. It's not that way at all. It starts in a 5/4. And also the whole structure of that introduction is important to understand and to play with the same intention and the same pulse and the same proper beat and intention of the composer and of the music itself. Anyway, once again, 5/4. Now you're probably wondering why, anybody that plays the trumpet, why I'm playing that D with 1 and 3 instead of 1. Well, it has simply to do with the overtone series, and that D with 1 is going to be flat. But if I use the other overtone series, 1 and 3 overtone series, which is the 6th overtone series, 7th would be all 3, 6th overtone series, I can adjust the intonation by being able to move the first valve slide. So that sounds then like this. Now that's a much better intonation. Might not be perfect. I mean, there are people that have very good ears and notice that that's not really quite perfect, but it's in the right direction. I think I'm missing a screw here on the valve things here. Goodness gracious, I think that's it right there. And there we are. Yeah. But that's just optics. It doesn't really change anything in the acoustic here. Yeah, there we are. So anyway, I used to play in German orchestras. When you play an audition in a German orchestra, not when I started in 1978, but soon afterwards, they expected you to play a German trumpet, a rotary valve trumpet, especially the Haydn concerto. They wanted you to play on the B-flat trumpet. And I'm just going to grab my B-flat trumpet out of the case that I had it also at Christopher Cornford's yesterday. Here it is. Here it is. It also has these triggers and the double thing that I don't much use. Pretty snazzy trumpet in gold and silver, well done. Also changeable lead pipe, and the valve section is Sierenbauer. So I'll just take this RG mouthpiece that I've been using for this instrument and stick it right into the B-flat trumpet. So I'll take the lead pipe off here and take the mouthpiece out here. Come on, be my friend. I adjusted this a little bit because of the receiver. Take this off here, and that back there. So this mouthpiece fits right into this lead pipe, the same as the other one. You can see there's no gaps and there's no bumps. And the lead pipe goes in and touches right up here against the pipe there. So it's one pipe without any breaks, and the continuation of the back bore into the lead pipe gives a stable intonation. This is a big bore Sierenbauer machine with a very large bell, about a 5.5 inch. The Americans would call a 5.5 inch bell. I used to play Schilkes all the time. As a matter of fact, when I first came, a lot of people in Germany played Schilkes. Willy Bauer, who was the solo trumpet in the Bavarian Radio Symphony Orchestra, played a Schilke, and the gentleman who gave me 3 lessons to prepare for the audition in Dusseldorf, his name was Rolf Quinkvey, also played a Schilke B-flat trumpet. So Schilke had a very, very good reputation here, and very, very good trumpets. John Faddis still plays a Schilke. John Faddis is one of the most dynamic and interesting persons on the trumpet, or at least was in younger years, and he's a very fine gentleman. And he can play extremely high. That's one of his specialties, but with control and with very good intonation and a good sound. The problem is that a trumpet at a certain range doesn't really sound like a trumpet anymore, and you have to use so much compression and so much force to get super high notes out that it's not really that, for me, that enjoyable to listen to an instrument that you have to work so hard with. That's why I don't really think the trumpet is that much of a feminine instrument. It doesn't mean that women can't play it, but it's just I don't want to see somebody with, their eyes bugging out and all red in the face play the trumpet. I just don't want to see it. But that's also to do with breathing. I've had many women students and been quite successful with them. But the breathing apparatus for a woman and the way their abdomen works is different, because they have, of course, Gebärmutter, what they call the whole apparatus for having children. And that is, when that's compressed through the pushing down of the diaphragm, then it's another situation. Doesn't mean that women don't have very strong stomach and abdominal muscles. Of course, they have to have it, because that's how children are pressed out when they're born. But we're not talking about pressing down, we're talking about pressing up. And I'm going to talk about breathing and about how to approach, perhaps I'll play a little bit of the Haydn concerto on the B-flat trumpet, like you have to do for a German audition, in the next YouTube of The Man with the Horns. I hope this is somehow interesting for you. I'm really doing my best here on Saturday morning, and I'll see you again with Richard Carson Steuart and The Man with the Horns.